Welcome to the FinCEN training. If you have questions, this is just very conversational, but I'm going to do my best to explain what it is, why it affects you, why it's happening, and what your responsibilities as real estate agents are. So it's not as scary as it sounds, and it's not as much work as it sounds, but it is important for all of us to know exactly why it's happening, and why you're involved. So FinCEN is triggered by a few different things. It's only triggered for properties that are residential real properties. So a single family, a 1 to 4 family, a co-op, which I think we only have like one building that's considered a co-op in Milwaukee. Anything that's like a commercial mixed use with a residential component. So let's say you're selling like a bar, but it's got, 3 apartments above it. That would also fall into the bucket. And then vacant land, which would be intended for residential use. So if it's zoned for any type of residential use, it would fall into this triggering of FinCEN. Um, it's also triggered by non-finance transfer. So it's not like if someone has a loan, it will not trigger FinCEN. It's triggered by those who are not obtaining a loan or anything from a financial institution. So usually like an all cash offer, a seller financed offer, or some sort of private financing. So really the whole point of FinCEN is to stop money laundering as it relates to sales of real estate. So a lot of people over the years have been able to money launder using the purchase or sale of real estate, and they're trying to stop that. This is not like a one-off thing. They're trying to find trends. So they're keeping better track of who's buying and selling real estate with cash and how often and all of those things. So that's the reason that it's considered reporting. You'll hear that word when it comes to FinCEN, and that's what it is. It's just keeping track of these cash deals that they need to kind of monitor to make sure that there's nothing nefarious going on. Um, if the buyer is a legal entity or a trust, that can also trigger the FinCEN. So like, a lot of times we have people who have trusts just for financial reasons, but that at this point could trigger FinCEN. It doesn't mean anything's done wrong. It's just something that they want to track. And then there is no price floor. I mean, it could be $100,000 home. It can be a $3 million house. They're tracking everything. Does anybody have questions on that base? I'm going to go through kind of a lot from here. So if you're thinking I might answer it soon, then maybe sit tight.
Yes.
Okay, Kathleen?
So it's an all cash transaction coming from like a Schwab account is the proof of funds. So it would be coming from Schwab account. Does that qualify because it's coming from a financial institution? It's not obviously a loan.
It'll probably qualify for finance or for reporting, but it might not trigger like the full, for lack of a better term, investigation, if that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Again, the rule is just to combat money laundering or illicit activity in the US as it relates to real estate. And a lot of times what they've seen is LLCs or trusts that have been created to kind of fly under the radar, which is why those are also included in this reporting. So the only person reporting, only one reporting person is required. It is not you as a real estate agent. It is important that you know this because you're going to be involved in explaining to your client why this might come up and why a title company or another closing entity like an attorney, for instance, might be asking for more sensitive information much sooner. It's important you understand why they're doing that then, and that they might be doing that so you can explain it to your client in a way that makes sense to them. Um, but the person who's doing the reporting is going to be your title company or any settlement agent, like I said, an attorney or whomever might be in charge of that for that specific transaction. They will be collecting their social security numbers, date of birth, address. They might ask for LLC documents, trust documents, taxpayer IDs for LLCs, things of that nature. They also might ask for, information for more than one person, if more than one person is a part of that LLC or trust. So it's just important to kind of have that conversation up front, so that they know that that's coming down the line and they can be prepared for it and not overly sensitive to someone asking for that information. So here are things you should, as an agent, be doing. You just need to know what deals might be triggering FinCEN. So essentially, cash deals, whether they're, one person or trust, LLC, anything like that. That's all things or if it's like a seller finance deal, which we don't do a ton of anymore, but they still exist. Anything like that, just let them know that this might be triggered. Um, Again, advising them early that the reporting may be required is just really helpful for you and for them and for the title company when they do need to ask for the information. They're not getting pushback and they're able to get the information sooner and everything's able to close a lot faster. Um, so again, that's part of encouraging them to work with the title company and just saying, hey, this is totally normal. And they are going to ask you for this information, and that is important. Um, what you should not do is collect any social security numbers, IDs, information, anything yourself. So if they're like, well, I'll just send it to you, say no, thank you. Please send it to Focus Title or whomever is handling the transaction. We never want you to have that information because it could open up a whole bunch of liability on your end, and there's no reason for it, especially when you're just kind of the person explaining why they're going to be needing to provide the information, and that's kind of where you should end it. So you don't prepare any of the paperwork for FinCEN. Again, do not collect the sensitive data. It's on here twice because it's really important that you don't do that. Um, you should not be guessing whether the deal is reportable, and I would never use it as a definitive statement like this is definitely going to need to be reported for FinCEN. But I would just let them know, like, hey, this has some of the qualifiers that might require FinCEN reporting, just to let you know we might need to get more information from you from closing than a typical sale that you might have done in the past. Um, don't worry too much about this. It sounds scarier than it is. It's just really one of the avenues in which they're trying to combat money laundering. This just kind of increases the transparency for us. It improves client communication. And if they can get the information to the title company in a faster, more efficient manner, then it helps to close without delays. When they're refusing to provide information, things like that, that's where hiccups and obviously delays in closing and things can occur, which is something we obviously all want to prevent if possible. So basically, we just want you to kind of be able to recognize when a deal might need your help, or your help to kind of move along that they need to get this stuff done, so you can help them kind of navigate the process smoothly. Do you have any questions on this?
Now, what happens, and this is probably again, don't worry about this, but what happens if for some reason the deal falls through for one way or another? What's it's they could get their like lose their earnest money if I mean and again that there's bigger issues if it falls through because of the checks, but just so I understand
I
from a
mean,
deal
I think
perspective.
that's going to be a case by case thing. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't there is a FinCEN form that is now in zipForms. So, this starts and I had a slide for this, it must have dropped off, but this is effective March 1st. So, it's not far away. It's less than a month. Um, there's already a form in zipForms that I would encourage all of you just to start using. I would just, view it as like the affiliated business arrangement or the Keller Williams North Shore disclosure. It's just another thing that you're getting their eyes on upfront, letting them know that this is a thing that's going to happen and the things that they might need to provide down the line. And so they're agreeing or they're kind of understanding that up front so that it helps to open up that conversation, number one, for you. But then that should add a layer of protection of them signing it, knowing that they may need to provide this documentation or whatever it might be. So I would say because it's so new, I guess I can't really answer the question of how it would affect a deal if they didn't comply. But I would venture to guess that if it's something they need to do to get the deal closed, and they're not doing it, just like not doing financing or not doing the pieces that they need to obtain financing, it wouldn't really be any different. They're not doing what they need to do to get the sale closed. Does anybody else have questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Well, that's it. It's not as scary or in-depth as I think it can sound. It's just we should be aware of it so that we can explain it upfront to people. Did you have more, Kathleen?
Well, I don't want to monopolize the call, but it does seem like the information that they're gathering is already being gathered by the title company. Don't they already get the people within the transaction the social security numbers and
Yes, they typically have, I believe, the date of birth and the social security number. I think that it's just allowing them to get more information should they need it. I'm guessing it's going to apply more toward like LLCs and things like that because historically, I don't think they've really asked for a lot from those type of entities. And you know, I'm kind of gathering from all of the research and reading I've been doing is that's where a lot of this generally falls into territory of where this might be a helpful thing for them to gather.
okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Yeah. The other thing just to know, title companies used to just ask for those things primarily for something called a transfer return, which is something they would do online. And it's like the state just wants to know when something's closed, they've got to fill in this form and all of that stuff. The state's now asking for a lot more information for that as well. So it might just be something that you just prep people for that the title company will be asking for more sensitive information. Um, I don't know the exact specifics of what they're asking for the new transfer return, but I am doing our meeting tomorrow, so I will verify with my title rep on that and then get back to you guys on that as well. Just something to know, because generally speaking, they're tightening up everything just a little bit. Okay, well, if nobody has any questions or concerns on that, I can let everybody go. Thanks for swinging in. Bye.